Hi, this is Ivan. Welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since my last English video. Today I would like to introduce one of the most important heritage sites in Hong Kong, Tai Kwun. A place you definitely should have a look if you are planning to visit Hong Kong. Tai Kwun is a decaying monument which has been conserved and revitalized since 2008 by the Hong Kong Jockey Club. The Hong Kong Jockey Club spent 10 years and 3.8 billion Hong Kong dollars to conserve this place and finally reopened to public in May 2018 as the Center for Heritage and Arts. The location of Tai Kwun is quite convenient. It is located at Hollywood Road in Central, located at the heart of Hong Kong Island, and most importantly, it is free of charge. Tai Kwun, which literally means big station in colloquial language in Cantonese. At first it referred to the Central Police Station which in charge of a large area, but later it also referred to the former Central Police Station compound. The history of Tai Kwun can go all the way back to 1841 when the British first landed at Possession Point, modern-day San Juan, 10 to 15 minutes walk away from Tai Kwun. A few months later, they decided to build the first law enforcement complex in Hong Kong at Tai Kwun, a magistrate house with jail box, which was also the first magistracy and prison in Hong Kong. Captain William King was appointed as the first chief magistrate in Hong Kong. As the first magistrate, he had a lot of power since there was no police department or prison department. He had the power to arrest, detain, and punish prisoners. There is a street called Cane Mall, which actually named after Captain William Cane, which still exists nowadays. I would also like to talk about a street nearby called Old Bailey, which is probably named after Old Bailey Street in London, where you can find the Central Criminal Court of England and Wales. Perhaps back in 1850s, when the British tried to name the street nearby, they remember back home in London, a street with a magistracy named Old Bailey. That's why they also used the same name as well. Hong Kong Police was established in 1844, but you have to wait for another 20 years to see the first police building in Tai Kwun. The Barrack Block was built in 1864, which was originally designed as the principal police station with a jail ground. The building had the same function as the barrack in army. That's why it is named the Barrack Block. At first, it only had 3 levels, but because of the overcrowding issue, in 1905, the police department decided to add the 4th level, and that's why there are 4th level in the Barrack Block nowadays. Beside accommodation, you can also find the armory of the emergency unit in the Barrack Block. Armory was a highly secure place. There will be only one entrance and exit, which is this blue color metal door. This means the wooden door we just walked past did not exist. This metal door was protected by the double cage design. Back then, there will be only one police officer located inside the armory. Even if you're a policeman who need to work that day, you have to wait outside the armory. You could not enter to the armory directly to collect your equipment. You have to lock the door. Lock. Who's there? And the police officer stationed inside the armory will check the rotation and see if you really need to work that day. If yes, then he will deliver equipment to you. For large equipment such as shotguns, helmet, and shield, these large equipment will be delivered through the individual metal door located at the bottom of the metal door. By doing so, this could prevent opening the whole metal door and maintain the security of the armory. For smaller equipment such as gun, bullets, and handcuffs, those will be delivered through the smaller gun window. We are now heading to the first floor of the Barrack Block. The Barrack Block originally designed as the accommodation, with single bed at the middle of the building, and also two married couples at the end of the corridor. Police officers such as Henry May probably may have spent his time with his family at this married quarters. The outdoor area of first, second, and third floor of the Barrack Block is known as the veranda. The word veranda came from India, which basically means balcony with roof and pillars. It can prevent direct sunlight to the indoor area and improve ventilation to the building, which explains why this type of architecture style was common in Southeastern Asia. In the past, these verandas became socially important to the police community. You may have a closer look to this red color signage. The Tai Kwun tail signage shows that policemen gathered at this veranda, enjoying food and watching police parade from the verandas. I would also like to talk about the balustrade. The gap between those fast-shaped balusters is too wide, which might not be safe when this space open to public. The most obvious solution might be adding a glass window, which would damage the outlook of Barrack Block, damage the authenticity of the building. Authenticity in daily English stands for true or truth, but in terms of conservation and revitalization, this means the original outlook of a building according to historic documents. Basically, we want to keep the building as original as possible. At the end, the conservation team came up with a solution by adding a brown color baluster in between those fast-shaped balusters. It might seem so obvious when you stand close to the building, but when you look back from the opposite side, you will not be able to see the brown color balustrades, because they have the same color as the wooden door and wooden window in Barrack Block. There is a mango tree located at the parade ground, the open area next to Barrack Block. You may not see any mango on the tree today, which might be a good thing. According to some former police officer, they said if there is many mangoes on the tree, it represents a bad oath. Terrible things might happen to Hong Kong. However, on the other hand, some police officers suggest the otherwise. They said it represents a good thing, represent chance of promotion. These two views might seem contradict to each other, but if you think deeply, perhaps terrible things happen to Hong Kong, police officers solve the case, then they receive chance of promotion. So this could work out perfectly.
Nice.
Anyway, it is only a tale. You can choose to believe or not. The red and white color building in front of us is the police headquarters box. It was built in 1919 during the Edwardian era. Once you have entered to the police headquarters box, you should be able to see the Doric order. Doric order is one of the three main orders from ancient Greek and Roman. It was usually used in male god temples, for example, the Parthenon in Athens. The other two types of order are Ionic order and Corinthian order, in which Ionic order was usually used in female goddess temple, whereas Corinthian order was relatively rare. You may find the Corinthian order in the Zeus temple in Athens or in the temple of Mars Alta in Rome. If you ever have chance visit the police headquarters box a few decades earlier, you might have been frightened by something else. There was a tiger head specimen handed at this location. The reason behind that, you will have to look at the photo under tiger head. It is because in 1915, there was a wild tiger in New Territories, modern days Shaanxi. The police received report and sent out policemen to hunt down the tiger. But unfortunately, one European police and one Indian police was killed by the tiger. The tiger was shot dead, and its head turned into a specimen. It was displayed in the first generation City Hall, near modern day's HSBC headquarters, for 25 years. In 1940s, The tiger had then transported to this location, dissipated in the police headquarters box for around 50 years, until 1990s, when the police museum opened near the peak. This staircase is a very good example to talk about authenticity. This staircase is more than 100 years old, and the height of the balustrade is too low, which does not meet nowadays statutory regulations. The most obvious solution might be enlarge the height of the balustrade, which would have damaged the authenticity of the building. In order to persuade the housing department, the conservation team came up with 3 solutions. First solution, they have grouped 4 balusters into one group. Every 4th of them, one of them will be strengthened. Second solution, the team had added a brand new handrail on the opposite side. The third and last solution, the conservation team had added large plants in front of the barrier in order to prevent visitors, especially children, running directly to the barrier. The police headquarters box contains facilities that can reflect the multi-ethnic structure of the Hong Kong police in the past. For example, you may find a dream room for European police and also a sick prayer room for the Indian police. In fact, there were 4 main ethnics that form the Hong Kong police. You might have heard of a poem before, ABCD Big Hat Green Uniform. The thief escape while the whistle blows. A stands for European police, B stands for Indian police, since India was a colony of Britain. C stands for local Chinese police. And finally, D stands for policemen recruited from Weihai from the Shandong province, which was a leased area of Britain. All of the area we looked at in the previous part of the video are open to publics, but this long tunnel in front of us is an area behind the scene, which usually don't open to publics. This long tunnels actually was a underground passage connecting the police headquarters box and the airway shelter. If you want to have a look at this airway shelter, here's the chance. In order to celebrate the 5th anniversary of reopening Tai Kwun, Tai Kwun have decided to organize a special tour which will visit hidden spaces such as this airway shelter. This hidden spaces tour will be exclusive between 26th of May and 28th of May. Unfortunately, the hidden spaces tour have been fully booked already, but you can still fill in the on-day waiting list to see if you can join this tour. The red brick building in front of us is the 3rd generation Central Magistracy. Of course, the 1st generation will be the one built in 1841, which shortly demolished. In 1847, the 2nd generation Central Magistracy already built at this same location. And this 3rd generation building was built in 1914 and first operated in 1915. I would like to talk about one of the most important cases ever heard in the Central Magistracy. In 1973, Peter Gober, the Chief Superintendent of the Hong Kong Police Force, who had been working for the Hong Kong Police for 21 years already, he was suspected of corruption for around 4.3 million Hong Kong dollar. At that time, a bowl of noodle will only cost you 80 cents. Perhaps nowadays a bowl of noodle will cost you 40 Hong Kong dollars, which means 50 times more. So 4.3 million Hong Kong dollar would be something like $200 million. And of course you still have to count the factor of inflation. But anyway, it's a lot of money. Corruption was a common problem in Hong Kong back in the 1970s, but there were no independent department to investigate integrity issue. In the case of Peter Gober, he was investigated by his own police colleagues, and he denied all the charges related to corruption. His police colleagues had not even took away his permit, which allows him to enter to the airport directly, which explains why he managed to fly back to England in 1973. An independent department, the Independent Commission Against Corruption, also known as ICAC, was founded in 1974, and finally in January 1975, the government managed to extradite Peter Gopher back to Hong Kong. He arrived at the Central Magistracy through this staircase, and this photo was taken by the press at this location. On that day, the Central Magistracy even received a phone threat, but fortunately, it was just a false alarm. Peter Gopher received his first hearing at the Central Magistracy, and he was sentenced to prison for 4 years. However, in 1977, Peter Gopher received a pardon from the governor of Hong Kong at that time, which means he only spent 2 years in the prison. Peter Gopher then traveled to Spain, and we haven't heard any news from him anymore. The only thing we can be sure is that the government failed to trace back that 4.3 million. They only managed to trace back 1/10 of that money by selling his house back in England. So, perhaps Peter Gopher enjoying his later life in Spain with that 4 million Hong Kong dollars, perhaps. In 1915, when this third generation Central Magistracy first operated, there were only 2 courts, Court number 1 and Court number 2. And this is how Court number 1 looks like nowadays, with a video showing one of the earliest cases heard in this court regarding a European refused to pay his rickshaw fee and assault policemen afterwards. Moreover, there was a staircase located at the middle of the court which connects the holding cell and the dock. If you want to look at the staircase, you will have to go downstairs to the holding cell. In the past, suspects will be captured at the holding cell before their hearing, and then they will use the staircase we mentioned to enter to the court. However, because of safety reasons, normally the staircase will not open to public. As I understand, this staircase will be one of the points covered by the Hidden Spaces tour. So, if you are interested at this staircase, you may join the Hidden Spaces tour. As I mentioned before, Hidden Spaces tour have been fully booked. You have to fill in a on-day waiting list to see if you can join or not. We are now entering to the prison area. This is the Superintendent House, which was built in 1860s. At first, it was used as the main entrance of the prison. You can still see the door mark on the floor. Imagine if you are a suspector. After your hearing, you were found guilty. It will only take you a few minutes, or perhaps less than a few minutes. You will be ended up in a prison. The red brick building in front of us is B Hall, which was built in 1910. When you look up, you may find that B Hall was surrounded by other prison buildings, which means to some extent B Hall is located at the heart of Victoria Prison. This was one of the standard prison cells back in 2000s, with 1 single bed and 1 bunk bed, so 3 prisoners in 1 cell. Yeah, that's right, 3 prisoners live in such a small area. And most importantly, there was a red color bucket and yellow color bucket. Red color bucket for light soil and yellow color bucket for clean water. Because Victoria Prison was the only prison in Hong Kong without a flushing water system. And the flushing water toilet located next door was only for prison staff. B Hall is the only exhibition area in Tai Kwun without any air conditioning. If you ever have chance visit Tai Kwun during summer, you may feel how hot and humid prisoners in Victoria Prison used to experience in the past. Mentioned before, B Hall is located at the heart of Victoria Prison, which explains why it was used to capture serious criminals such as murder or armed robbery in the early days. However, especially after World War II, since Central became a commercial center, it would not be appropriate to capture serious criminals at Victoria Prison anymore. Serious criminals would be captured in Stanley Prison instead. Victoria Prison was then used to capture criminals committed lighter crimes, for example, illegal immigrants, or sometimes it was even used to capture suspects before hearing. There is a leather store next to B Hall, which used to store leather to prevent any escape attempts. According to former prison staff, they recall there was a now destroyed tunnel connecting the Central Police Station and the Central Magistracy. This is the prison yard. In recent years, prisoners were entitled to 1 hour free time every day. They will spend majority of that time at this open area, perhaps playing basketball or even playing chess. In case of emergency, for example, drug search or escape attempts, the prison yard will be used as a gathering point as well. However, prison yard wasn't always an open area. It was occupied by a large structure, a radial prison in the past. You should be able to see some stainless steel studs on the ground, starting from this point all the way towards the prison wall. It was used to indicate the once exited radial prison. A radial prison is a prison designed with a central inspection hall and 5 projecting wings. Ideally, you only have to place one guard located at the central inspection hall, and he could monitor 5 projecting wings all at once. This is how the radial prison would look like, with 3 levels and 5 projecting wings, with a very large structure, all the way towards the prison wall. Talking about the prison wall, the height of the prison wall should be able to block the view from the outsiders. Besides obvious security reasons, it was also meant to protect privacy of the prisoners. If you look closer to the prison wall, you may find 3 types of materials. Lower part with larger stones, smaller stones at the middle, and at the top with concrete, which means the height of the prison wall has been enlarged at least twice before, but still failed to stop the view from the outsider anymore. And it is perhaps one of the reasons why this prison has been shut down in 2006. You may look at the red color signage if you want to find out more information about the radial prison. D Hall, the white color building in front of us, is the only surviving part of the 1862 radial prison. On the first floor of this building, which used to be a hospital, you can now see a red color circle on the floor, which is known as the Sally Port. In the past, this place was used to deliver medicine. A medical staff will station inside this cage, and every time, one prisoner will enter to the Sally Port area, and other prisoners had to wait outside the Sally Port in order to keep a certain distance away from the medical staff to protect the safety of the medical staff. On the lower ground floor of D Hall, it was used to be a female prison cell and a water-wise diet room. Since 1830s, male prisoners and female prisoners had to capture separately, according to British law. As a British colony, Hong Kong also followed the same rule and hired female prison guards to look after female prisoners. These female prison guards were usually wives of male prison guards. Some of these female prison guards would be Portuguese came from Macau, since Macau became colony of Portugal a lot earlier than Hong Kong became colony of Britain. A few generations have been living in Macau, and majority of them can speak fluent Cantonese. It is believed that Cantonese might be an important medium to use inside Victoria Prison. The lower ground floor later was then used as a water-wise diet room. Water-wise diet was a punishment inside prison. If prisoners break any prison rules, they might be punished by the water-wise diet, which means eating cold rice and drinking water for no longer than 3 days. For foreign prisoners, they will eat bread and drink water instead. We have come back to the courtyard, where I'm going to talk about death penalty and execution. Death penalty used to take place at this courtyard, where all the plants located right now. In the early 1850s, death penalties were executed at this open area so that the public can witness as well. And the reason behind that was to frighten the public and hopefully reduce the number of crimes. Execution took place publicly for around 30 to 40 years until 1893, which was the last time death penalty took place at this open area. It was then moved into indoor area, and later in 1937, after Stanley Prison opened, location of execution then moved to Stanley. The last time death penalty took place in Hong Kong was in 1966, the last time England won a World Cup, a long time ago. But in fact, you have to wait until 1993 for death penalty officially abandoned in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong Jockey Club has conserved and revitalized this place since 2008. The Jockey Club spent 10 years and $3.8 billion Hong Kong dollars to conserve this place, and finally we opened this place to public in 2018 with 16 historic buildings and 2 brand new buildings designed by Swiss architect Hesse and Dimeron, which are now used as a contemporary art gallery and an auditorium with 200 seats. If you are lucky enough, you may be able to enjoy free music performance or circus play. If you want to watch more English video related to Hong Kong, please let me know and leave a comment below. I will see you next time. Bye bye.